"11 killer doll horror movies that are scary but also hilarious." There's a certain maliciousness about dolls that make them inherently creepy. This has also intrigued horror filmmakers to use these lifelike, glass-eyed dolls as the antagonist in their storytelling. The very possibility of an inanimate doll coming to life or getting possessed by some evil spirit is enough to give you the chills. After all, we have all stared at our dolls at some point in our lives and wondered if they would blink. In this video, we have compiled some amazing horror movies that involve dolls, and most of these entries have the potential to give you a sleepless night. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Pin, 1988. Leon feels neglected and isolated by his parents. He fills the void with an uncanny attachment with a large wooden puppet that was used as an anatomy doll by his father, who was a doctor. He calls the puppet Pin, and soon enough, the doll begins to take over his life. Even his sister Ursula is not spared, and when she starts dating her boyfriend Stan, things take a turn for the worse. Is there more to the doll than what meets the eye? This unsettling movie is bound to remind you of the Hitchcock classic Psycho. However, Pin manages to stand on its own as a disturbing psycho horror flick. The character of Leon makes this film such a thrill ride with his complex psychology. He hates the strict parenting, and yet he somehow grows up to be like his parents. His attachment with the doll is sad yet creepy, and unlike in the mindless slasher movies, here you can care about the characters. The subtle storytelling is complemented by the dramatic performances as David Hewlett and Cynthia Preston shine in their acts as Leon and Ursula. The life-size Pin is terrifying to watch, and things culminate in a bittersweet climax that will leave you with mixed feelings. This movie is criminally underrated and is a must-watch for all horror film enthusiasts. Love Object, 2003. It is all fun and games till the anatomically accurate silicone sex doll comes to life and a jealous personality kicks in. The story begins with a socially awkward office worker, Kenneth, who is a novice in matters of romance. To deal with his loneliness, he buys himself a lifelike sex doll, and his life takes a turn for the better. His romantic skills are enhanced, and soon he attracts a colleague at work, Lisa. However, the doll's personality invades his consciousness. Soon he is caught between his human lover and his silicone companion. Love Object takes a very basic idea and transforms it into a frightening and inventive little film. The plot hits hard, especially in contemporary times where people often struggle to deal with loneliness and depression. You know you are stepping into a bizarre world when the protagonist slowly falls in love with a seemingly inanimate doll. But with high production values, the movie makes a strong impact, and the wonderful acting performances further help the cause. Desmond Harrington is particularly aggressive amongst the cast and is unforgettable as the central character. The development of his character is exciting as he slowly grows from a regular office-going man to someone with a dark side. The steady build-up intensifies towards the climax, and this thought-provoking movie is full of increasing tension that keeps you on edge. A creepy living mannequin always gets the fear bugs going, and here it's no exception. It is truly an ignored classic with an original idea and gripping narrative. Trilogy of Terror, 1975 TV movie. This is a horror anthology with 3 terrifying stories centered on tormented women. The third story is about a Native American tribal doll that comes to life. Amelia buys an African Zuni fetish doll for her boyfriend. Things take a paranormal turn when the doll haunts her in her own apartment. Her agonizing journey in the face of this evil doll is the focus point of the story. The stories are based upon the works of one of the finest horror authors, Richard Matheson. But this movie becomes 100 times scarier for the doll in the final story. It will freak you out and make you lock up all the dolls in your possession in a cupboard. Even with the limited special effects back in the day, the doll is particularly well done. All 3 stories are effective, but this one stands out for the effort they took in making the doll move. When this 2-foot doll attacks with an intense ferocity, the viewers are bound to feel the jitters. The ending scene is a definite moment that will scare even the hardest of bravehearts. Karen Black stars in all the 3 stories, and she has done a fabulous job with a somewhat crazed act. Overall, this is an exciting anthology to try out, especially for the final story with a creepy doll. Dolls, 1987. A family traveling on vacation is stuck on a stormy night in the middle of nowhere. They are offered shelter in a nearby mansion by an elderly couple. Soon, a couple of hitchhikers join in after getting similarly stuck in bad weather. But there is something seriously wrong with the elderly couple, and the young girl in the family finds out that the dolls in the mansion have a deep, dark secret behind them. Can the guests survive the night in the dangerous house? The director of this movie, Stuart Gordon, was famously known for films that were loaded with violence and gore. However, in this film, he showcased his creativity differently through an intriguing fairy tale. For a low-budget movie, the special effects are pretty impressive and the dolls look pretty terrifying. The scene where the dolls suddenly come to life and turn their heads is a priceless moment in the film. Stuart Gordon does bring in the element of gore, but it is more controlled and measured than usual. The cinematography is perfect as the Toyland kind of atmosphere in the house is captured beautifully. Acting performances are decent, with Carrie Lorraine stealing the show as the adorable young girl. The movie released at a time when killer doll movies were becoming popular, yet somehow this remained an unsung hero. But with a curious mix of horror and humor, this makes for an ideal number from the factory of Stuart Gordon's Fearfest. Magic, 1978. Corky was a mediocre magician until he tried out ventriloquism with his dummy called Fats. He reaches the heights of fame and all seems perfect till he finds out that Fats has developed a mind of his own. In a bid to get away from the evil dummy, he heads to his childhood love interest in an isolated mountain retreat. However, his dreams of starting a new life are trashed by Fats, who doesn't seem to let go of his master. With Richard Attenborough in charge of things, you could expect a classic effort in this movie, and you won't be disappointed. Magic is a psychological thriller that keeps you guessing whether the dummy is actually coming to life or is Corky losing his mind. The director creates the ideal atmospheric effect with a silent, gloomy lake and Corky's lonely cabin. The casting of Anthony Hopkins as the magician is a masterstroke. He is just perfect as the shy, awkward mime who slowly descends into a world of madness. The dummy is another showstopper in the movie and steals the show in every scene that he is in. Special mention must be made to the moment where Corky is not to speak through the dummy for 5 minutes. Each second in that scene will be a tense moment for the viewer. The design for the dummy was conceived by some Disney employees, although they did not want to be associated with such a dark film. This gem of a movie was nominated for the Golden Globe Awards, and even today, it can give the modern horror thrillers a run for their money. Puppet Master, 1989. A puppet maker named Andre Toulon was one of the best in business. One day, he came across an old Egyptian formula that allowed him to grant life to his puppets. When the Nazis planned to use his idea for their horrific acts, he shot himself before they could steal the secret. Many years later, a psychic, Neil, discovers this secret and summons his 4 psychic friends. They arrive and find out that Neil has killed himself for some mysterious reason, but soon the murderous puppets are unleashed on the group. There is something sinister about the Puppet Master that they will find out. If you are into horror flicks, you are probably aware of the reputation of a cult status that Puppet Master has acquired over the years. Charles Band and his company Full Moon Pictures are known for the trashiest B-movies in the horror genre, but even amidst these, they created some masterpieces like Puppet Master. Heavy use of puppetry alongside stop-motion animation makes for a pleasant viewing experience. David Schmoller, the director, makes sure that there is plenty of suspense and the atmosphere of a classic horror film prevails through much of the movie. Paul Le Mat is impressive as the lead character, and even with his limited screen time, William Hickey pulls off a great cameo. The story soon leads you to the puppets as they become the center of attention. Each of the puppets has a personality of their own, and some of their attacks are going to haunt you. As long as the cheesy action and laughable 80s horror elements don't bother you, Puppet Master will be a remarkable experience. Dead Silence, 2007. Jamie's wife is brutally murdered in their apartment, and he returns to uncover the mystery behind her death. The town has an interesting folklore that talks about a ventriloquist named Mary Shaw who was murdered by the townsmen for kidnapping young boys. It is believed that she, along with her collection of dolls, comes back from their grave to exact revenge on the people of the town. As Jamie dives deeper into the mystery, he soon figures out that there might be some truth to the folklore. The legend of Mary Shaw adds the necessary fear factor into the story. Imagine the premise that says you can't scream when you see Mary Shaw because she will take your tongue, and your own voice would be the last thing you will hear before you die. The heavy atmosphere teams up with creepy music to provide a spine-chilling experience. Dead Silence is a throwback to the golden era of horror flicks and is a complete package together with eerie dolls, jump scares, and some startling moments. The creators, James and Lee Wannell, went on to make classics like the Saw series, and this film catches glimpses of their brilliance. However, the brilliance wasn't appreciated, and it turned out to be a box office failure, which in turn squashed the plans of a sequel. If you are someone with frequent nightmares, this movie will only offer you more reasons to have one. Child's Play, 1988. A doll is possessed by the evil spirit of a serial killer. Need we say more? Child's Play has the most unsettling premise where a mother gives her son Andy his desired doll for his birthday. The killer inside the doll has no plans of stopping its killing spree, irrespective of the body that it is in. Andy tries to tell everyone that the doll is behind the murders taking place, but people don't believe him until it's too late. The director, Tom Holland, creates a haunting atmosphere with a simple story about an evil doll. We get to know from the very beginning that the doll is haunted, but that doesn't reduce the thrill of things in any way. Besides, we get to know more about the capabilities of the doll as the film progresses. A sluggish start soon changes into a suspense-filled roller coaster where you don't know what is about to happen. The cast exhibits their acting skills with some brilliant acts in the form of Brad Dourif, Catherine Hicks, and Chris Sarandon. The effects in this movie are pretty impressive, and the doll itself was very well done. The tight direction and editing, the shocks and scares are plenty, especially in the scenes involving the creepy doll. The hammer in the head scene will give you goosebumps for sure. This movie probably bridges the fine line between a classic horror flick and a slasher horror movie. Annabelle, 2014. Mia and John are expecting parents, and John buys his wife an ancient doll named Annabelle. One night, a satanic cult attacks their neighbors and breaks into their house as well. The cops manage to save them, but the family moves to another apartment in Pasadena. Mia delivers a baby girl, Leia, and throws away the doll in the garbage. Strangely enough, she soon finds Annabelle in their new home while unpacking. To make things worse, they realize that the evil cult is still at play, and through a haunted doll, they want to capture Leia's soul. Can they subdue an evil force that seems to be overwhelmingly strong? The movie has dealt with a lot of unfair criticism, mainly for the comparisons with The Conjuring. While The Conjuring might be a superior horror flick, Annabelle has its moments as well, especially with the creepiest doll that you'll ever see. The cinematography deserves a special mention, as you would find shots of seconds that show you something important. For instance, the scene where the mother is watching over the baby and you see something lurking in the hallway behind will take your breath away. The plot is brilliantly woven and picks up pace towards the end. There are other scary moments, such as when Father Perez fails to get the better of the evil doll and you realize that it is superior to the positive forces. While this might be no classic, it is certainly worth your time and enough to give you the creeps on a rainy night. Moral of the story: give your partner anything except a weird-looking doll. The Boy, 2016. Greta takes up a job as a nanny to look after an 8-year-old young boy. To her horror, she realizes that the boy is nothing but a life-size doll that the parents cared for just like a real boy. They have done so to deal with the grief of their actual son's death. However, some disturbing and inexplicable events turn Greta's worst fear into reality. She starts to think that the doll might actually be alive. The story will constantly make you wonder if you are going crazy or if the nanny is. The idea of the plot was not to provide for a terrifying movie, but an inherently creepy one. The shocker towards the end when you realize the truth behind the matter will leave you shaken. Lauren Cohen is well cast as Greta, and she beautifully captures her conflicting thoughts and trauma. Looks can be deceiving, and the trailer for this had everyone thinking that it is just another run-of-the-mills 80s style horror film involving dolls. There is more to the plot, and brilliant photography also makes for a wonderful viewing experience. If nothing else, watch it for the twists, because such shocks are a rarity in movies. Demonic Toys, 1992. Video. Two cops, Judith and Matt, go after some illegal arms traders in a Toyland warehouse, where Matt dies in the shootout. Somehow a demon who brings toys to life is awakened, and Judith gets stuck with one of the arms dealers and the security of the warehouse. As the toys start coming to life, they watch in horror as the toys kill them one by one. Judith must survive, not just for herself, but for her unborn child. Can she escape the nightmarish warehouse? Full Moon Pictures never fail to entertain, and Demonic Toys is no exception. The story about a demon coming back to life in the form of a young boy is exciting to the core. What add to the viewing experience are the special effects and use that belly the budget of the movie. There is a wonderful selection of demonic toys that are somewhat creepy. The teddy bear and the baby doll in particular will give you an eerie feeling. The humor is on point as well, with the psychotic laugh of the clown and the cruel one-liners from the baby. Richard Band's effective background score leaves a good taste in your mouth. However, there are some flaws that mostly result from a lack of budget. For instance, the lack of diverse locations can give a sense of monotony, and the villain is somewhat of a letdown. You do have some cheesy moments that some people don't appreciate in a movie, but unless you're one of them, you are sure to have a gala time with this one. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.